Well, g'day everyone, how's it going? My name's Tim, and today I've got a bit of a toy I'd like to show you. This is a Razer Core, one of those Thunderbolt 3 external GPU enclosures people are talking about on the internet. The dream with these puppies is that you can use them to hook up a desktop-grade video card to a computer that otherwise wouldn't normally fit one. The main use case, of course, is being able to take a really lightweight laptop that otherwise couldn't play any video games and turning them into unholy gaming beasts. So when I'm not making crazy videos on YouTube, my normal desk job is I write apps for iOS, iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, sometimes Mac. But that basically means that my laptop has to be a MacBook. And while they're very nice for work and very nice for looking shiny, they are absolutely garbage at playing video games. Here's a quick test to see what sort of frame rate the integrated graphics and the CPU can produce. I mean, it looks nice, but the frame rate is single digits, not really playable. Now, you're right, I probably could have just bought a gaming laptop and had like my MacBook and the gaming laptop and just, swap between the two. But I was thinking, isn't that a bit overkill? Like, ideally the dream is I have my MacBook for all my work, and then whenever I'm not ultra portable, I can just take it home, plug it into a Razer Core, and then just have that souped up and play games on that. The idea being that's hopefully a bit cheaper than buying a gaming laptop and might also have more performance. One thing to note is that the Razer Core isn't actually available in Australia yet. I actually was living in America for a bit last year and I went and got one while I was over there. That being said, I went to PAX Australia last year and I talked to a guy from Razer and he said they're just around the corner. But that all being said, I kind of bought mine on a bit of a gamble because I actually had a lot of questions about the Razer Core before I bought it, and there was not very much information on the internet. So things like, would it actually work with a MacBook? Things like, what kind of performance gain did you get? All those kinds of things. So I thought I'd buy it and hope for the best. And then I promised myself I'd make a video about it, which is what I'm doing right now. First up is the core itself. It looks really nice, actually kind of Apple-y. The reason I picked this one, after checking out a few other models, is this one is by far the most compact. I mean, by comparison, here it is next to a can of my absolute favorite beverage. That being said, it doesn't look obvious from the photographs, but this thing is really heavy. I took the video card out and tried weighing it on my bathroom scales, and it was 4.9 kilograms, which is like, I don't know, 10.8 pounds for you pound people. But then again, it probably wouldn't be the first time those scales have lied to me. So with that being the case, it's obviously too heavy to just chuck into a suitcase or a bag on its own. You'll probably wreck everything inside it. So I actually went away and bought a carry case for it. The Pelican 1500 I found fit it perfectly, and although that's a pretty hardcore carrying mechanism, I'd recommend it. That being said, a fully loaded Razer Core inside the Pelican is a whopping 10 kilograms, so it's portable, but not ultra portable. When you actually open up the Razer Core for the first time, you'll find this giant foam block sitting inside it. Yep. Yeah. So this thing's really cool because what it does is it actually shows you exactly the size of the video card that the Razer Core can take. Here's a close-up of the foam block with the actual dimensions on it so you can see exactly what your limits are. So as you can see, you're definitely limited to a 2-slot video card. Anything thicker, like those crazy Asus ROG Strix cards, probably will not fit. But the yellow spacing is interesting because video cards that fill that space will technically fit, but there are some caveats. Sadly, I ran into those issues firsthand. After looking at that size and thinking, nah, it's fine, it'll fit, I went out and bought an EVGA 1080 Ti for the Win 3 video card. So that's a 2-slot solution, but it's about half an inch taller vertically than the recommended size. So what did that actually mean exactly? Well, I plugged the video card into the core and then attached the power cables to the top. And then when I tried to put the video card and the tray back into the core, the cables were blocking the top. The video card was too high and there was not enough clearance. This is pretty much the face I made when I discovered that. That actually hurt my chin. Thankfully, there was actually a solution. So the reason why it didn't actually fit was because the power cable was coming up and then straight down. So it was that curving of the wires that was causing the blockage. So I thought, surely if there was some kind of adapter that would just have those cables at an angle, it would probably fit. So I jumped on the internet and I found on eBay of all places that someone was actually making and then selling these custom adapters where the wiring came out of the connector 90 degrees. So I ordered 2 of those, waited for them to arrive, took about a week, and I just basically prayed for the best the entire time. When those 2 connectors finally arrived, I feverishly plugged them into the core and found out that yes, by doing that, there was enough clearance for the cable to actually slide in now. But that wasn't the end of it. So it turns out the inside of the core isn't smooth. There's a pile of crap in there. And the problem is, with a video card that big, literally everything got caught. If you look inside right now, what have we got? We've got that grill mesh for the airflow, that sticks out inside, and that's enough to get caught. And we've got these little divot thingies on the ceiling. I don't even know why they're there, but they get in the way as well. And then of course you've got this bit of metal, which is part of the locking mechanism, but that makes sense. That can be there. But what are those divot things? Really? Anyway, after a lot of very careful maneuvering, trying not to break the very expensive video card, just making sure nothing was caught and that the wires were properly aligned. It took a lot of elbow grease and a lot of basically like hope and prayer, but the video card finally fit. It actually went in and I was like, oh, pretty much just like that, yeah. So the lesson to that entire story was, if you managed to buy the core before the video card, it would behoove you to buy a standard form factor video card. Anything bigger might fit, but it's a huge gamble and you probably don't want to have to deal with that sort of mess. I'm going to go on the record and say, like, I think the EVGA for the Win 3 is the biggest video card this thing will fit at all. Like, if it was a millimeter bigger, it probably wouldn't have fit. So that was the easy bit, getting the Razer Core set up. Next bit was actually getting it working with the computer. Fun times. So, if it's not an official Razer laptop, your mileage is going to vary very greatly depending on what kind of laptop it is when you plug the Razer Core into it. Before I continue, I need to give a massive shout out to the folks who run and the folks who frequent the website egpu.io. This is a fantastic resource with all sorts of installation guides, tips and tricks, tutorials on how to get various models of eGPUs working on various laptops depending on the hardware configuration, the operating system configuration, everything. So if there's any questions I don't answer in this particular video, I highly recommend you go there, sign up for the forum, and ask the questions there. It's a really good resource, and I'm so happy it's around. So once the Razer Core is actually set up, getting it running on your laptop is actually really easy. All you need to do is boot up the laptop, and then plug in the core, and then automatically Razer's drivers will come down and install. If all goes well and you reboot the computer, you should be able to just go to the device manager in the Windows settings, look at the video devices available, and your video card should just be there, as if it was actually plugged straight into the laptop. Now, I don't have much experience with other laptops, but I got to play with this on a 2016 MacBook Pro, and there was actually a bit of an issue there, where when you plugged it in, it would be visible, but it wouldn't actually be on because of an error number 12, which is something to do with the device's allocation table. Thankfully, the 2017 MacBooks don't have that issue, so if you're shopping for a MacBook, get a 2017 one. But otherwise, there's a lot of tutorials on egpu.io on how to solve that issue, because it's a very common issue. In that particular case, I was actually able to solve the error 12 problem by just testing plugging the Razer Core into each port on the MacBook. Don't ask me how long it took for me to realize this. So my current laptop is a 13-inch 2017 MacBook Pro with touch bar, and although it works, there is a bit of a trick, a bit of a hacky trick I have to employ to make it work. If I plug the Razer Core in straight away and then boot up the MacBook, it'll just play a bunch of crazy graphics and then crash. Even worse, if I let Boot Camp boot all the way into Windows and then plug the Razer Core in, it'll think about it for a bit and then just blue screen. Fantastic. Totally worth the effort. A solid 5 out of 7. So, it's really unclean, but I found out the way to do it is I have to boot the MacBook, wait till the Windows loading icon appears, and then plug the core in then. If I fail, the computer will crash. If I succeed, it'll boot up as normal and the core will be recognized. I'm sure that's not the right way to do it, but it works for me. One final thing of note, I'm using a 13-inch MacBook Pro, but there's actually a few more issues with the 15-inch MacBook Pro. Because the 13-inch MacBook Pro doesn't have a discrete GPU, getting the Loopback Mode, where basically the video signal goes from the laptop to the core and then back again to the screen on the laptop, that's really easy to get working. On the 15-inch MacBook, because it has a discrete GPU, that makes it by default not actually able to do Loopback Mode. You need to do a bunch of hacks to try and fool it into deferring back to the integrated GPU on the CPU. While there's a bunch of tutorials on egpu.io that show how to get this working, in the chance I had to try it out, I could not get it working. So your mileage may vary, but what I'm going to say is if you really want Loopback Mode and don't want to deal with a bunch of issues, get a 13-inch MacBook. Otherwise, I'm sure it'll get better down the line, but the 15-inch MacBook is a lot of work to get working right. Alrighty, now the good stuff. Once the Razer Core is actually set up, what kind of performance gains do you get? So there's only 2 games I really like playing at the moment. That's Overwatch and Destiny 2. Although I am making my way through Rise of the Tomb Raider as well. So I'll crank those games up and see how they go with external mode and loopback mode. Overwatch is a fantastic game. I love me some Hanzo. But that being said, it's actually a really well-made game as well. Like, this thing will run on a tin can. Like, I cannot believe how well it runs. I thought that because I got a 13-inch MacBook, which has only a dual core and not a quad core, there might be some kind of CPU bottlenecking, but that wasn't the case. Once I plugged the core in, this thing ran on the loopback mode at a solid 60 frames with everything maxed out. And when I say maxed out, I mean that's the full native Retina resolution of the laptop screen. So crisp. Destiny 2 was a bit different. It didn't work properly at the full native Retina resolution. It would probably peak at about 50 frames, but that wasn't the 60 hours after. I did some tests with the things like setting the texture quality lower and things like that, but that didn't make a difference, which led me to believe this is actually a bottlenecking issue with the actual Thunderbolt cable. Whenever that's the case, if you just set the resolution a bit lower, I set mine to 2560 by 1600, which is just the standard 30-inch monitor size, and the performance had a huge boost after that, so just keep that in mind. And Rise of the Tomb Raider was basically the same as Destiny 2. I mean, it worked really nice at the full Retina resolution, but it wasn't hitting a full 60. So all I did was just change the resolution down a bit, again to 2560 by 1600, and then it actually worked really smoothly after that. Alrighty. So that was loopback mode, but now let's try it with an external monitor. So my monitor of choice is an Asus gaming monitor that runs at 144Hz. I really like 144Hz, it looks so nice, but at the same time that means I need a bit more power than 60 frames. Thankfully, when the Razer Core isn't looping back, that means a lot of the bandwidth that was being spent sending the signal back to the laptop screen is now freed up. So hopefully that means that when you run in external mode, you'll get much better performance. Again, Overwatch is no surprise, this thing will run on literally anything. As you can see, stable over 100 frames, even when everything's set to max. This is fantastic. This is exactly why I bought a Razer Core. Destiny 2 seems to hover between 60 and 100, which admittedly my gaming PC also has, so I think that's just how Destiny runs. But again, that's completely playable and still a bit smoother than 60, so this is again viable and again worth having a Razer Core. And finally, Rise of the Tomb Raider, again, works really well. Again, above 60 frame average. Yeah, this thing is totally playable. It's great. So there you have it. That's it. That's how you get a Razer Core to work on a MacBook. As you can see, there's a few gotchas, a few pitfalls, but there's lots of resources online, and if you ever play with it yourself, you should be able to find out how to get it working for yourself. And once you get it working, it is really good. So I definitely recommend it. Don't regret not buying an extra gaming laptop. Also, oh my god, I'm playing games on a Mac. I never thought this day would come. My mind is blown. And that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. What do the YouTube people say? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I guess if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. But anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you again next time.